Just then, a devastatingly handsome young fawn handed the great Dagda his solid gold, jewel-spangled, elvish-crafted harp, whereupon the great king of the gods set his long, slender fingers upon the curious instrument's spun glass strings. Oddly arranged chordal progressions conjoined then with a stunningly well-executed chain of strangely seductive rhythms. And upon the opulence of his inexplicably intricate bed of sound, an ever-evolving libretto sung out in strange modes, mostly Aeolian, did fill the air with a peculiar sort of strangeness, undeniably extant on one hand, utterly indescribable on the other. It was not long then ere the two figurines began to slowly come to life, and after a bit of yawning, eye-wiping and gazing about, they, as if responding to the words that the great Gaelic god was singing, began to walk arm in arm, slowly promenading round and round the gilded and glowing top of the alien god's most holy altar. Accelerating their pace in time with the Dagda's increasingly frenzied rhythm, they eventually moved so swiftly that they became then as naught but a barely visible blur or haze. And when their whirling had accelerated to the point that they had become completely invisible, the great god gradually retarded his rather maddening prestissimo all the way down to a nigh-crawling adagio, which in turn caused the two ancient royals to slowly make their way back to the very center, yet not as two things, but as one thing, a tiny puddle of thick, smelly, iridescent goo.
Allow me,
Mervin insisted, pointing his dragon's head scepter then directly at the pungent little pool. The seemingly well-rehearsed sorcerer then loudly resounded,
that the blood of the living universe shall fill thee up again and again. Be now the holiest of all holy cups.
Emma and her mother soon began then to chant,
Come now, come, most wondrous grail, from ancient luck and ancient ale. Come now, come, grail of living stone, from ragged remnants of flesh and blood and bone and bone.
over and over again. And so then did the weird little pool of stinky goo begin to churn and sputter.
La Danu, Bieran, Copa, Nipa.
Myrddin then commanded, ere the slimy little puddle did most astonishingly then form itself into an intricately carved dark green alabaster goblet. Not long then thereafter, the great Dagda laid down his lyre, walked to the altar, and taking the cup in his left hand, raised it level with his mysteriously glowing blue eyes. And staring back at him then were the emerald green eyes of the great Queen Clotilde. For the cup to carry life must be given, my lord, the ancient Grail Queen insisted, the meticulously carved relief of her mouth and facial features moving as if alive, which in some strange way they must have been. Turning the cup around then, he got the same message from King Arthur's engraved likeness.
Who then shall give up their life for this cause?
The Dagda quickly retorted, just ere Ladies Adeliza and Emma resumed their chanting. The beautiful god then whispered into the ear of a nearby satyr. Instantly then did the well-horned goat-foot slave vanish, reappearing only seconds later with Morgän's cage in hand.
I know what you're after, and I won't have it. I tell you, I won't have it.
So divine Faye howled out in her squeaky little insect voice, prompting Lord Mervin to smile and trumpet thusly.
The 7 days of eternity has at last run its course, through thick and thin, through fine and coarse, from dark mother Danu's incalculably infinite mind, were those 7 days given to live, to love, to lose, and to find. But alas, 'tis thy time to leave all that merry business far behind. My queen, my love, my impish angel, most divine. So come out, fairest fairy that can ever be, that has ever been. Oh, do come out, my precious fairy, saint and queen, my ever-changing, wickedly wondrous waking dream within a dream, within a dream.
With this, the lyrical old druid opened the cage door with his left hand, and grabbing the squirming, spitting, swearing, biting fairy-cum-dragonfly with his right, he drew her through the 6-by-3-inch opening, holding her over the strange talking cup by her purple-veined insect wings with naught but his pinched right thumb and forefinger. He then produced a vial from deep within his pockets, and after having anointed her tiny human-like head with some sort of floral-smelling liquid, he tarried not ere delivering his final command.
Be now with thy most glorious, sweet Morgän, my dearest of dears. Be straight as spears, or be the queerest of queers. Be the cog in someone else's gears, or be free to see and to hear all that is perfectly clear than clear. In miniature, humanly fairy form, my dearest of dears, with but this one kiss, I do now compel thee to appear.
After kissing the human-headed insect on top of her tiny noggin, Mervin lowered her down into the Grail. And as he placed the holy cup at the very center of the Holy of Holies, all eyes then watched in sheer amazement as the interior of the 8-inch high vessel became as a royal throne room. Intricate gold reliefs decorated the otherwise exquisitely muraled walls. The floor was of polished black granite, and from the lofty ceiling hung the gilded antler racks of 1,001 giant bucks. And upon the throne sat the most beautiful thing that could ever have been or will be, the great Fey Queen Morgän. Subsequently then, as Morgän and the cup swiftly transformed, so did Mervin, the Dagda, Lady Adeliza, Little Lady M, and the Holy of Holies. For no sooner did they peer into the Grail than did they find themselves in the midst of the great Fey Queen's grand throne room. Rather amused by the whole affair, the giggling Fey Queen rose and approached the altar of altars, floated up above it, and levitating just above the center, looked down upon her quite captive audience, smiled and teased.
So then, who will slay me, so that your precariously precious world of humans might then live free and proud forever?
One by one, she gently queried them. First little Emma, then her mother, then the great Lord Dagda, each one returning naught but silence for their answer. However, when she turned to her husband, he promptly then levitated himself up to her level and joined her at the very heart of the illustrious crystalline altar. Whereupon the two conjoined in a most passionate love embrace. Around and around they began to spin, then circling in perfect time with her heavenly father's increasingly manic chanting and lyre thumping, their toes not but a half-inch above the multi-sigil glowing golden surface of the tiny altar of gods. And as the speed of their spinning made them appear as naught but a whirling mist of grey and white, the great Magus sunk his long, hollow canines into her pulsating cardoid artery, draining her completely. Then he slowed the spinning to a standstill.
It is done, my children. The queen has been murdered by her lover. By me. Even that the blood of the gods might then pass into the coming eon.
Lord Mervin announced, as a huge tear trickled down his left cheek, turning thereafter into a sort of mercurial globule of semi-liquid that eventually went on to engulf first her face and then the rest of her perfectly formed body in what appeared to be a second skin of silver foil. After he had handed the dead fairy queen to her father, the great Dagda also cried a great tear, and as that magnificent driblet fell upon his dead daughter's cheek, it flowed out over her corpse, enveloping her completely, greatly shrinking and then encasing her with a dimly luminescent cocoon of silver-veined purple and black. Taking up his great sledge then, the Dagda brought it down upon the chrysalis that now lay at the center of the Holy of Holies. And as he lifted his great hammer, there appeared in the by now pulsating cocoon's place a highly ornate alabaster pentacle, necklaced handsomely with a chain of the purest silver. Mervin then instructed Lady Adeliza to retrieve the anomalous item and to thereafter present it to its proper owner. Approaching her daughter from behind, Lady Adeliza gently hung the god-formed talisman around her daughter's neck, saying,
"So that the evil one might take thee never, you will now wear this talisman forever. Precious beyond precious is his gift, my love, for it is the essence of those who dwell so very far below and so very, very far above, created in a world without want or fear, from the blood and the flesh and the forbidden tears of the most ancient and the 7 times 7 times 7 most ancient and holy ones, here in the nigh eternal orbit of a distant and dying sun. Hence then shall ye, even unto the very end of your time, keep this treasure closer than close, O dearest and fairest child of mine."